Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar. David here, reminding you of all the ways you can participate in the Practical Guitarist Podcast. Subscribe using your chosen podcast app. Take the time to put in a review with the service where you found our podcast, like iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. Get involved. Find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/practicalguitarist. You can also find us on Twitter as @PractGuitarist. If you're interested in supporting the show, we have launched a Threadless store at practicalguitaristpodcast.threadless.com. If you'd like to donate money to the show, there's always Patreon. Our Patreon is available at patreon.com/practicalguitarist. If you'd like to reach out to us directly, you can do so at questions@practicalguitarist.com. On with the show. Hi, Jim.
Hi, David.
I'm on the ball today. I have my finger on the record button when I started counting down. It was kind of nice.
That's
Normally,
awesome.
I'm like moving the mouse around at one. I'm like, where is it?
Did you fix the bumper?
No, and I'm not going to as long as you have no gear.
Are people going to subscribe or prescribe?
They're going to prescribe. They're going to prescribe to our channel.
They should have a prescription to it.
The only prescription is more cowbell.
More cowbell. Christopher Walken was right.
Mm-hmm. So we've been trolling the interwebs right before the episode, and I think we'd be remiss if we don't cover this right up front. Yeah. So Boss has announced that there will be some new Waza pedals on the way. I believe it was Monday or Tuesday. And they put out a little teaser video, and I watched a teaser video, and you can see that they have the stacked knobs, which is a concept that they've used on a couple of their pedals, but the only one I can think of offhand is the Metal Zone. So I immediately thought they're doing a WazaCraft Metal Zone, and it looks like it may be confirmed at this point because there's been a leak of some images, but they could easily be photoshopped. But it wouldn't surprise me. The Metal Zone is a pedal that's been around since 1991, 90-ish. It phased out the HM2, which is now highly sought after, has a very different sound. People hate this thing, and I think it does kind of get an unfair rap. I've seen, especially lately, there have been a lot of videos of people plugging it into the effects loop on their amp and getting really good sounds out of it. And
I'll
go ahead.
I'll withhold judgment on that one.
Well, until you've seen the clips, you can't really say anything, Jim.
Oh, I did. I watched several. I watched Ryan.
Did you watch Ola England's clip?
Yep, I watched.
Okay, so you watched Ola.
Yep, I watched Ola. I watched Robert.
Yeah, so without watching Ola's clip, I could see how I'd still be like, eh. But I think the Metal Zone is a very particular pedal, Jim. It's not for you. So you can turn your nose firmly in there if you like, but there are guys out there that will use it.
No, I'm not. Again, there's only inappropriate tone.
Right.
Tone is not bad. Tone is good or bad. It meets the situation it's in.
I think there are situations where you can have a bad pedal, though. And I don't mean like an inappropriate pedal. What I mean is by a bad pedal, like a pedal that doesn't, it's very hard to set the way you want it to sound. And it'll do that sound, but it's very finicky. Or it has to, it has to have certain things on the board in order for it to work properly. Or you have to go direct through that pedal into the effects loop of an amp, like Metal Zone. Or, those kind of quirky things that are like, this pedal is really not that flexible. And so I think that would, at least in my mind, would qualify it as a not so great pedal. Again, doesn't mean you can't get good stuff out of it. It just means that it's got a very specific use and it can be hard to live with.
I think that there would be given what the pedal is and the results of the testing, I think that it wouldn't be a bad idea for somebody to go out and find a few pedals that don't work in the front end of an amp and try them in the effects loop, because let's face it, there's a good possibility that it's because it's really not meant to go in the front end of of certain amps.
I don't think the Metal Zone was actually designed to do that. I think the Metal Zone is a happy accident. I think it was designed to go because it doesn't have any cabinet modeling, so it's not built for direct. I don't know what it was designed for, because it sounds like ass through literally anything you plug it into, unless you do something very specific to the EQ to make it, work properly with your equipment. But it's a super finicky pedal, and it's super hard to adjust. And I've seen guys successfully use it, and I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just saying it's a hard pedal to live with. Now, this Wazacraft thing, like, if we can speculate on the features, this is what I think they should have done. Whether they did this or not remains to be seen, or whether they actually made a Wazacraft metal zone still remains to be seen, because this is a leak. I would suggest that they put the switch, the Waza switch, and on the switch you have an HM2 sound that you can switch to, because for players that are into that specific tonality, oftentimes they can cross those pedals and say, okay, I want either a metal zone or I want an HM2. I think that's a good level of functionality. The other thing is, I would like to see if they had like a switchable cabinet modeling option.
Right.
So then you can just take the amp out of the equation. For people who bitch that it doesn't sound good through their Marshall stack or their Fender combo, then they can find another way.
I'm just saying that there might be other pedals that the reason they sound like ass, no matter what you do, is because they're going into the front end of an amp, and whether or not they're designed, in that for that purpose, they actually would do a better job.
Yeah,
think about it. So think about the Boss. So the metal zone, obviously, Boss probably did design it to go into the front end of the amp. It's working better in the effects loop. What about the DS1? Which, has anybody tried that?
I've had good success running the DS1 out in front of amps. I think it's a far more usable pedal than the metal zone is, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it's
you have to resist the urge to push the tone control above noon.
You have to resist the urge to
turn it on.
You have to resist I was gonna say, to push past one.
No, the DS1 has a very specific sound that it goes for, and I don't think most people are looking for that sound. Okay, I think I always felt that pedal was kind of modeled on a DoD grunge. And if you've ever played with a DoD grunge, they sound like ass. So
I don't like grunge. I can believe that.
So I think they upgraded a lot of what it does. They looked at the circuit. They said, okay, so we can kind of make a pedal that does sort of the same thing. And they did it with higher quality components and stuff. And you know what? It's a standard distortion pedal. I mean, I think all of us specialize so much in our sound, especially guitar players. We've talked about this before, but other musicians, they don't give a shit what cables they're using. They just don't care. I think for guitar players, we specialize so much in our dirt sound specifically that it's really easy for us to take a general use pedal like a Boss DS1 and go, this is horrible, because it doesn't do anything very well. That's exactly it.
Exactly.
So the other pedal in their lineup, which we haven't touched on, is the Dimension C Chorus. So apparently that's going to be the other one. I could definitely see them bringing back a chorus, but I'm also kind of weirded out because I thought there already was a Waza chorus. I thought they did the CE2.
I was just looking at the Wazacraft line.
I thought they did a
Go
CE2
back there, and I don't remember seeing.
They have a CE2W. That's the Boss Wazacraft chorus.
Where'd it go?
Yeah, Boss's site's a little antiquated.
No,
sorry, folks. Let me dance for you while we're waiting.
No, it's my thing. So they've only got
they've only got
Blues
4.
Driver.
I think they got 4 pedals, right?
The Blues Driver, the Overdrive, and the Delay are the only ones they're listing on their site.
Yeah.
Special edition stomps. So
no, that's not accurate, Jim.
I'm looking right at their site. Boss.
I understand that, but they have a CE2W that's a Wazacraft pedal.
I believe it. I'm just
saying. That's what I'm saying. That they don't have 3. Or you said
they got
4?
More than 3.
They got so they have the Blues Driver, they have the Super Overdrive, right? They have the Delay. That's 3. 4 is the chorus.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to where they list their pedals. Their site sucks ass.
Well, I don't think they've listed, so you can't see all the watercraft pedals on one page together.
Yeah, there it is. So yeah, yeah. Well, you can see all the pedals together.
Yeah, but
just not all the watercraft pedals.
Right.
So they've got the Blues Driver listed. I'm talking about listed on the page that the Blues Driver, the chorus, and the delay. So why have another chorus? Why bring the CE5? Oh, I know why.
That's why I'm beginning to wonder if this leak is legitimate or not.
I know why. Hold on a second. Because the CE5, what does the CE5 have that CE2 doesn't have?
So the CE2 is an analog chorus.
Is an older one?
It is an analog chorus. It is their premier analog chorus from years
ago. Then why
would
you bring the CE5 then is digital?
Correct. Yes.
All right. So why would they not want to bring in a... I always wonder why somebody would buy a TU3W. Why would you buy the TU3W?
Yeah, so the Wazacraft TU3 has a switchable buffer.
You can switch the buffer on and off?
Yeah.
That's useful.
It's just for certain people. I think that's what it is, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
It's something like that. It is actually, because I originally poo-pooed it too, and then I looked at it, I was like, well, okay. I don't know that I would pay $200 for that as a tuner. I mean, I can go get a Peterson for that.
Exactly.
So if you guys haven't used Peterson tuners, those are great.
Yeah.
So here's a couple things. I was actually kind of surprised that this leak didn't include a DS1 Wazacraft. Right. Because I thought that would be the one they would want to do before. Because I know a lot of people hate the Metal Zone, but there are a lot of people that hate that DS1 too. And I kind of thought that's what they would do. Now, the funny part about all this is, they've moved on from the Metal Zone sound. They've got the Ibanez Metalcore, which I think that's a digital pedal, but they've got some other ones too. They've got the Mega Distortion and the Turbo Distortion, and the Angry Driver now. And actually, if you haven't had a chance to check out the Angry Driver, I recommend it. It's a good sounding pedal. So the Angry Driver it's an interesting thing because it's a collaboration between them and GHS, but it also sets up the fact that Boss can do really, really good drive sounds, which has always been kind of like their Achilles heel for a lot of people. Maybe you like the Super Overdriver, the Blues Driver, but the vast majority of the dirt pedals they do are kind of like hit or miss for most people. So I would expect that they'd be looking at that and going, we need to make a new Metal Zone, like an MT3, and call it something else, Metal Master or something. And, basically revamp that pedal. Or, the DS1 needs to be touched at. And I think that could have been done with the Wazacraft pedal, because we all know there's enough mods done to the DS1 to make it sound decent.
So they have the deep dive version of the DS1, the DS1X. So you've got the OD1X, the DS1X, the CP1X, the bass compressor X, and the bass.
I would argue that DS1X. I know that they want to say that it's like, it's a DS1 with more EQ. That does not sound like a DS1 at all.
I'm just saying they've got a more expensive version of the DS1 already sitting out there.
Yeah, I guess from the product lineup standpoint, if they feel like that actually accomplishes what they say it does, which I've used.
Which, I haven't used it. I haven't even seen one, to be completely honest.
Yeah, most places wouldn't stock them.
The only reason I asked about the CE5 is because I have an old. I think, was it CE3 before it was CE5?
Yeah, I think you have a CE3 because I think you showed it to me at some point, and I thought it was a CE3.
Yeah, it was made in Japan, really old. Late 80s, early 90s model. I want to say it was an 89 or 90 I bought it, so it would have been real old. It's really, really old.
I think the Waza line in general, because I know that's like their answer to boutique brands. The Waza line in general, they make good quality pedals, but I've never been enamored with any of the Waza versions.
No. I've never played a Waza where I went, you know what, that's worth an extra $80. Right. If I was going to spend that kind of money, at that point, I've already jumped into either some boutique or into
it's hard to make that justification at that point.
Right.
So I actually, Philip McKnight said it best, I think, because I was watching him do his little boss board that just rolled across my YouTube the other day. And he says, I've got Waza versions of a lot of these pedals, and he says, I actually prefer the standard version. And that's very telling, because I think, like, for the Super Overdrive and the Blues Driver, they ain't broke. You didn't need to do anything. They were fine.
Yeah. I think the only DS1 I really want to get my hands on that is kind of special edition is just the black one. I like to have a black one.
I don't even want that.
I do. It's black with orange instead of orange.
Send it to me. I'll get some Krylon, and we'll take care of it for you, Jim.
Shut up.
I'll get my brother to paint it. He paints cars for a living. He'll do a real good job. I promise.
I'm sure he would. It
was his birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, John, if you're listening.
I think, looking at the current WazaCraft, I finally have the WazaCraft page up. So you have a tuner, a chorus, a driver, a vibrato, a delay, and an overdrive. Really, the only thing they don't have is a distortion pedal. So honestly,
so the Metal Zone is their preferred distortion pedal.
The Metal Zone is a possibility, but honestly, I cannot see, like, for the very same reason you and I were just saying that we wouldn't buy the WazaCraft version. I mean, if you had a CE2 and a CE2W, would you buy the CE2W over the CE2?
No, but the thing is, they don't produce a CE2 anymore.
Right. That's the only reason you'd buy the CE2W.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Why would you buy a Metal Zone WazaCraft? It would be trolling.
Another 100.
And it would be hilarious, but it wouldn't be worth the production.
I gotta see the feature set. I have to, because there are things they could do, like I said, to make that pedal marketable for the price that it is. Because it does sound good if you do certain things with it. And they could tweak the EQ, and they could put a cabinet modeling simulation on it, switchable, and that would put it over the top for a lot of guys. If they put an HM2 in the box along with the regular Metal Zone circuit, they're going to sell them. They will sell, because that HM2 pedal, there's a market for it. People are buying them used for like 30 years ago. They're falling apart.
True. But okay, so that's the only way. I mean, yeah, you could switch that. You could put really what you'd be doing is re-releasing the HM2.
Yep.
Now, let's face it, because they'll probably do like they have the other ones where they have the switch. It goes from S to C, So they'll go, okay, here's the HM2 side of it, and that's probably where you're going to leave it.
All right, can we talk about the other product launch that I've been raving about in the group since we're already on the subject?
Yep. So we're going to talk about the Fillmore 25, right?
Yeah. No. So I'm going to start off because I'm I've played the Fillmore several times now, and I wanted one. I have a really bad taste in my mouth with Mesa right now, and I it's not that I think they're putting out an inferior product or anything like that. I just don't like the business practice of what they just did, because so you bring out a new amp line, right? Look at how Boss did their Katana when it came out. It's a perfect example. They came out with the 50, the head, and the 100-watt combo, and I think the 212 came out at the beginning as well as the cabinet. So they pretty much had a full range of performance amplifiers right out of the gate when it came out. So when the Fillmore comes out, they announced the 50-watt combo and the 50-watt head and a cabinet to match, right? Fine, no problem. The problem is within 90 days, which I think it was less than that, I think it was 2 months, they announced they're going to have a half wattage version and a small format head with the same feature set as the big one. So what do you do if you bought the big boy and you were really wanting the 25 watt? You didn't know it was coming. They should have at least announced it and said the 25 watt is in production. It won't be available until this date.
Well, okay, let me ask you, isn't the 25 watt, I thought I was looking at it earlier today, wasn't the 25 watt a 25/18?
No.
Or is it 25/1?
No, the 25 watt head. 25.
Okay. So, that doesn't make any sense.
So, and here's my real issue. And I don't have the pricing in front of me, so I'm going to go off memory.
It was $1,400, if I remember your thing earlier today. It was $13.99 for the head.
Correct. $13.99 for the head, $14.99. Right. No, $13.99 for the head, $14.99 for the big boy head.
Yeah.
So what sense does it make? Because it's switchable down to 25 watts. I'm sorry,
that's what I'm saying.
But nobody's looking at it and going, "Oh, I want 6V6s versus 6L6s."
Right.
If you are, I don't know why. I mean, I kind of understand, but I don't think it's
50. If the 50 will switch to 25, what's the point of buying the 25?
There isn't one. That's why I said that they basically just like screwed themselves out of a sale. If they'd had the price tag dropped another $100, I probably would have been like, all right, this makes sense to me because I'm never going to use the 50-watt mode anyway.
Well, if you need it, it's there. That's just it. If I throw it into 25-watt mode, then I have the 25-watt head.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But if I buy if I buy the cheap one and I never use the 50-watt mode, if it's $200 cheaper, like I could see that. But it's only $100 cheaper.
That's what I'm saying. You're not really saving anything. You're not.
And I think they fucked themselves because you can get a Mark V for $100 more than the 50-watt Fillmore head, the Mark V 25. So unless you need the wattage, which that's a whole other thing, because I've played the combo. They're not loud. They're not like a typical Mesa where they're like rip your ears off. They have a very laid back speaker in them, and so it's great for headroom. Like you can play it at home and you'll get great sound. But if you're gonna go to a gig, like you're gonna have to turn that thing all the way up and put your tubes under stress and stuff to make sure to make sure you got enough volume. In fact, I saw some people on the gear page saying they bought them and returned them because they weren't loud enough.
Really?
Yes.
See, that's why I'm saying, why wouldn't you want the 50-watt head?
No, this is the 50-watt I'm talking about, Jim.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm not. Yeah. So I should distinguish that the 50-watt apparently to some people is not loud enough.
It's not loud enough.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I played it. I thought it was kind of quiet, but I did. But for me, like I'm going to mic it up anyway, so it really didn't make that much of a difference for me. And I think most of your modern guys are going to mic it up, but I guess it's not necessarily true because their guys are returning it. So
is this the gear you're not buying?
I think I'm going to pass on the Fillmore.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
And it's I honestly like I might pick one up used in a year or two or something when the prices come down a little bit. But I cannot justify because I looked at the price of the Mark V and I go, I've got a Mark V 25. Like it's $150 more or whatever than the 50-watt. It's negligible, and I get 2 channels with a lot more options.
Right.
Plus, you get your effects loop, your reverb. It's foot switchable, all that stuff. Compact head, EL84s, which to my ears sound better than 6V6s. I know that 6V6s, according to some people, have reliability problems too, and that's why a lot of amp companies shy away from using them. I'm not going to weigh on that. I'm not a tube engineer, so. I looked at the price tag and I looked at the fact that Mesa pretty much screwed their customers because if you were, because I'm still sitting here waiting for the 25-watt version of the Triple Crown. Like
right.
I know it's going to be coming. Like at some point they're going to do a 25-watt version of that, and if they don't, they're missing out on a huge part of the market. But I'm kind of sitting there like and I'm scratching my chin as I say this, but I'm scratching my chin thinking about the fact that they let their customers down by playing that game of you want only the 25-watt version in a smaller format head. Well, it'll be available, but we're not going to tell you about it, so you'll have to buy the 50-watt version first, and then you'll have to trade it in or sell it off to get the real one. They pulled a bait and switch. It's bullshit. And I'm sorry, I'm a pretty loyal Mesa guy. I like their amps, but that was ridiculous. That's the first time they've ever done something like that really kind of harkens back to the fact that they screwed their customers.
Yeah, you are. And for those who are not regular listeners, Dave loves 2 things, G&Ls and Mesa.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not that I won't stray from those brands either. I probably will.
Absolutely.
My next amp is probably not going to be a Mesa at this point. I mean, that's
again, that's a big letdown. If, in my opinion, the Lone Star is my favorite. As you know.
Yeah, because you have one.
Yeah, but I just can't see why anybody would spend the money on the 25. I just wouldn't do it. I would buy the 50, and I would have the other wattage on.
Yeah, and so would I.
For $100, why would I even bother with a 25?
Well, never mind the fact that to get the matching cab, you're going to pay $400 to $500.
Unless it costs like, weighed like half. Maybe that was an issue.
Well,
but amp weight is not as big a deal as guitar weight. I mean, you're only talking about 10 pounds, 20 pounds on
Let's back up a little bit further and look at how the Fillmore 25 sits in the marketplace, right? It's a 1x12 6v6 powered combo with 2 channels that are focused on cleaner to slightly dirty sounds, right? It does have a high gain channel, but it's not anything like what you're going to get out of a rectifier or a Mark.
So we're in the
series
gainy Fender category.
Right. So I'm looking at the Deluxe Reverb right now, the 65 reissue, for $1,100.
Yeah.
Now,
why would I?
Right. That's the problem. So if they'd have said, all right, we're going to put our amp out at $1,250 and split the difference, they probably would be selling a lot more because I'll be honest with you, the Fillmore is much better than a Deluxe Reverb reissue.
Right. Okay.
So I just don't. I just don't understand why.
I have no Mesa local deal.
Yeah, well, I know, but I'm just saying that there basically are no Mesa local dealers anymore. I mean, there's a handful here in Chicago, and
we had one. It's still there. There's one in upstate New York that I go to when I go up and visit family. I go to this one, Parkway Music in Clifton Park, New York. And that's one of the few. I mean, people from the city come up there to play Mesas.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and the other thing is that they don't have the dealer network they used to because they basically said we're not going to do that shit of letting Guitar Center buy amps without paying for them.
Yep.
So, and that's fine. I mean, that's their prerogative, and they've always been kind of a niche fringe brand where you could, they look like one of the big 3, but they're really not.
It's kind of like when you go into a restaurant, you have no prices on the menu.
You
can't afford it.
Kind of.
You can't.
Well, I mean, you can get the prices. That's not a problem. They just want to do a lot of direct sales. Is basically what it boils down to, and that's because that's always been their model.
Right, but I'm just saying it's if you don't want it, screw you.
Yeah.
You're going to pay our prices, and that's what it is. Because I mean, unless you're looking at a used one, there is no wiggle room in Mesas. Because like you said, they're not crazy about, right? You ask your retailer, they're not crazy about passing on savings. Rickenbacker was the same thing.
They did that. They have strict price control at Mesa because of what happened with Guitar Center.
And Rickenbacker was the same thing. Rickenbacker pulled back from Guitar Center. They said it was other stuff, but the truth of the matter is, because I've talked to people who are in retail and who did sell and do sell Rickenbacker, you cannot publish a price of a Rickenbacker instrument.
No, they have strict pricing control on that, and it's more than Mesa, in fact, because Mesa is allowed to sell online if you have a certain dealer level. There's very few companies that have that ability. Sweetwater's one of them. But yeah, I mean, I just look at this and I go, it doesn't make sense to price the amp the way they priced it, given that yes, it's definitely got a higher quality cabinet. I'll bet you it has fewer components. It has bigger iron. Okay, so there's they are saving some labor here and there. I think that the Deluxe Reverb reissue is not made in the States, so I get like $150 or $200 more, but the price that they put on it just doesn't make sense.
Yep.
So that's my 2 cents. I'm sure they'll sell a lot of them, but they're not going to sell one to me, and at least not new. I'll probably buy used when it comes time.
If you have the chance.
Yeah. Well, it's not if I want one. I mean, I'll just buy one off Reverb. I don't care.
Yeah.
But
me, I'm not that easy to.
I know you can't. You can't join the 20th century. I get it.
I can't. I know. I get it. All right. So with that, that I'm in Stratocaster market right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm looking at probably getting a Stratocaster next few months. I want to get a good one. I'm kind of tossed. and this is a huge price difference, folks.
You didn't buy that 70s one yet?
No. Kind of tossed between getting an American Professional and a Player's model. The Player's model is in the 650 category. Comes with no case candy. It doesn't even come with a bag. The American Professional is $1,400.
All right.
Has the hard shell case, the case candy. I know that $700 is not. That's not something to cover a case. You can buy many cases for $700. That's not what I'm saying. So
you're looking at new. What
are your feelings?
You're looking at new now, right?
Oh yeah. I would. Yeah.
Sorry, I was completely ignoring what you were saying.
Blow it out your ass.
I'm feeling really saucy tonight.
I know, but
you know what?
You know, because you sat with me the other night and you saw that there's like 2 Stratocasters on sale in my whole area.
Yep,
it's ridiculous, folks.
There was like 2 reasonable ones, and it was funny because we did a search of everything in Virginia, and we found there was I think there's 50 or something in this whole state, but most of them weren't even in driving distance. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, and the other side of it is because I'm not going to drive 3.5 hours to DC to find out that
it sucks and
shit.
Right.
We actually found, what did we find? 2 or 3 reasonable guitars.
Yeah, we found 2 or 3 that were reasonable.
In Virginia and North Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah. So so now you're talking about going new and getting either an American Professional or Players. Here's my question for you. And I'm going to get real candid, and it's probably going to get ugly, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Okay. How long are you going to need this guitar for?
As long as I'm playing in a funk band.
I'm just saying, exactly. So I'm just saying, is it the smart decision to go whole hog and get the American Professional up front if this band only lasts 6 months or 9 months or a year?
Yeah, I mean that is one side of it. There's no question about it.
Right.
But you and I both know I've been talking a long time that I got a Strat. The other thing I would do with it, if I wound up leaving this band and I went to something else, I'd try to do a David Gilmour thing. I'm going
to tell you, every guy, and yes, I'll probably get some hate mail in the group. Everybody should have one Strat. Everybody should have a Telecaster, which I violate that rule.
You don't have a.
I don't have one. I'm violating that rule. Everybody should have a Les Paul alike guitar. So if it's a Les Paul or an SG or something, those sounds are 3 sounds you will should always have in your tool shed. And so I honestly, if you wanted to go to the American Professional, I'm not going to say no. I think that's where I would go. But that's it's completely subjective. You should be able to go to your store and play an American Professional.
Yeah,
I played Mexicans before, and I've had my hands on the Players Series at Gearfest when they were first being rolled out.
Yeah, because they're relatively new to the market. A few months.
Yeah, they were.
What was your feel on the Players Series versus the?
Honestly, they felt just like the older Mexican series. I didn't really see that much difference. I mean, as a guy who plays a lot of Strats, it's funny because I can pick up a Strat and go, "Well, that's a Strat," that's kind of how I felt about it. I didn't plug them in, and it's not like I could have gotten that level of detail at Sweetwater anyway, because it's you're out in open air and it's loud and all that kind of fun stuff. But if it all just comes down to the pickups for me. You're buying better pickups to go to the American Series. So if your pickup, what's the difference in price now? Is it's like $300 or $400?
Well, they've got a lot of blemished ones. I probably get a $500 difference. $450.
Okay, so they're going to be $450 different. That's for pickups.
Hard shell case pickups.
Yeah, the hard shell case is a toss in. It's for pickups.
Again, yeah, but I would want a hard shell case.
I know, Jim, but it's a toss up.
I'm just saying that's $100 I'm going to spend.
Okay.
Or I'm not
$100 on a hard shell case.
That's right.
And $300 on pickups.
So I'm there.
I think
Plus
you can get pickups. I can get Strat pickups cheaper than that.
Oh, I thought you said it would be $300 for pickups.
That's what I'm saying. No, they're saying they're charging you. This is what Fender is charging you: $100 for the hard case, $300 for upgraded pickups. if the pickups aren't the same. I don't believe they are. Player series pickups.
No, they're not the same. It's the V mods in
V mod versus So
whatever's in the
all right. Yes. So I would probably go to the player series then, because it's going to be an upgrade. They can pretend like it's not an upgrade, but it will be. I suspect the V mod is probably more aimed at contemporary players.
Because the professional is the V mod. The player series has the player series Stratocaster pickups.
Oh, Mexican pickups. That's a nice way of saying that. So I would go. Yes, definitely. I would opt for the American if I got the dough.
Yeah. So you would opt for the American.
Yeah, because if you don't, you're going to end up replacing the pickups anyway.
Yeah, I'd wind up replacing the pickups, and there's little things. I mean, like the quality of the hardware and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and that's if you can call it quality. I know people love Fender, but Fender gets away with a lot of cheap shit on their guitars, and I know people. Of course,
one thing that a lot of people say about Fender is, oh, well, Fender, I could drop it down a stairwell, and if I break the neck or the headstock, I can just get a new neck. So it is it's a Lego,
Yeah, I know, and I don't care about any of that. I mean, unless you're going to be actively modifying the guitar every 3 days, I'm not that guy. I never was. I want to play the damn thing. I don't want to have to fucking have it in pieces the whole time I own it. It's so the same thing happens in the firearms world with the AR-15. That's why it's so popular and scares the shit out of so many people. It's because you can modify the crap out of them, and that's why they're super popular. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're any better than anything else. It's like a car, that people buy Honda Civics, and they used to. They used to buy Honda Civics and put all kinds of money into parts and stuff, and it's like, but at the end of the day, it's still a Honda Civic.
Well, the only problem I have, so the whole Fender Professional series is really just the old American Standard. It's
no, that's exactly what it is. They rebranded it because all right. So Fender is trying to market to young contemporary people.
Okay.
Read white middle class suburban kids playing in church. All right.
Yep.
Between the ages of 15 and 35, right?
Right.
So they are ditching anything that calls out the fact that it's either an American or a Mexican guitar because of the ethnic connotations there.
Gotcha.
That's the way I look at it. And if you don't believe me, fine, I get it. But if you look on their site right now, I'm looking at their site, and when you go and you dig around, they don't call out in the name of the guitar the country of origin anymore. And
this one says American Professional.
Where are you looking at?
Guitar Center.
Yeah, you're not on Fender's site. That's my point.
No. Oh, so Fender's not calling it out.
Oh no, they're not making a huge deal out of it. Like, they're trying to downplay it. That's the way I perceive it, and that's the way that their literature looked at Gearfest and all that stuff. It did not. I guess it's in the fine print. If you read in the article, you'll find it, but they're not calling it out the way that they used to. And I think that's because Fender also understands that they're probably going to have to blur the lines between, what's produced here in the States and what's produced in Mexico and Japan. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see some guitars that are in the American lineup with Mexican pickups, or vice versa, to try and kind of blend the gap. But what I'm most interested in is the fact that they rebranded this way, and then they also said that now we can get a price increase as part of this. It's like, well, it's a rebranding. Nobody's ever gonna. I don't know how long this is gonna last. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if in 2 years they don't go back and they say, "Here's the new American Standard Strat," because because the industry is so in tune with it. And I know, yes, they're trying to get. They're doing what my association's doing right now. Everybody who's a member of my association, it's mostly older people who are in management, because we're a management company association. So that means that we're concerned about our retention rates going forward, because a lot of young people are not paying to become members of associations. And I think that's what Fender's concerned about too. is that if they don't market to the people that are in the younger generation, they're not going to be able to get that to mainline their guitars into your veins, and that they will no longer be as important as a brand. There's a lot of evidence to suggest this, because they were talking about, and I've read several articles, specifically with retail, but and music in mind, where they're saying that the younger generation doesn't necessarily care about the brand anymore. They're not as interested in what's on the headstock. And so they'll buy what they like. And that means that Fender has to either figure out a brand that fits them, or Fender has to make it so that it doesn't matter what their brand is anymore. And so by losing the Mexican and American and standard and all that stuff, they're kind of differentiating themselves in the way. The other thing is, it also gives them an easy entry for people who are new to the instrument. What are you? Are you a player or are you a professional? Right? And then you can say, you need the player strat because you're a player. Like you're not playing on stages. And then you play out and you make money doing this, then you need the professional level. It's the same thing that's existed in band instruments and piano and stuff for a really long time. So it makes sense.
Yep.
I just don't know. I don't know if it really fits the market, because they're going to sell out their older adult crowd who is pumping money into the company, and I'm sure they still are.
That's what they do.
In favor of...
Should I say we do? In
favor of, catering to the younger audience who might not stick with a guitar, who may never adopt it. I mean, we've talked about the rise of EDM and stuff. I mean, I don't know how that works for Fender long term. I don't. And Fender probably put a lot of money into this to figure out how to make their transition. But that's, I just don't know if it works or not. Listen, I play Fender style guitars. I have a soft spot for that company in my heart for designing those instruments. I've played actual Fender guitars for a good chunk of my playing career as an adult. And honestly, I don't want to see them hurt the way Gibson does. And they're doing okay now. Will they be? And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it could be everybody in the guitar industry. So, yeah.
I mean, the thing that is killing me with Fender right now is that there are so many damn Strats.
Yeah, they've always had that problem, though, Jim. This is nothing new.
I know. I'm just saying. And it's always been. So when you look at a used Stratocaster, you go, hey, and somebody says, yeah, I got a used Stratocaster. You don't know.
Well, what model is it? Is it a player Strat? Is this? But the vast majority of them were standard Strats.
Yeah.
And that's what's funny is that even though they had all these other series, I spoke with a sales rep a long time ago, and I asked him, I said, what series do the best for you regionally? And he said it doesn't matter whether it's regional. He says the guitars that sell are the standards. He's like, people want standard Stratocasters, standard Telecasters. They
don't have that. Right now, you've got the American Professional Series. You've got the Player Series.
That's just because they just changed that.
They rebranded it, right?
The Professional Series is the American Standard.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. The Player Series is the Mexican Standard. Okay, and so I don't know how that throws all into upheaval now, because just like I just told you, if that's still true, because that was probably 10 years ago, and the Fender rep is, they're going to be in trouble, because they're going to have people not realizing what they're buying.
Right.
Could you imagine if you didn't know that the Player Series?
And to be honest, if I was
Mexican made, and then you get it and it says made in Mexico on it, you'd flip your shit.
Well, if I was, that's what I was just going to say. If I was the guy walking into the store today that was not, I've got my head deep into the gear and I'm always reading about this stuff and that stuff, which I've got some stuff to talk to you about today.
Oh, good God.
That I would look at if somebody said, you should get a standard, and I walked in, one said Pro and one says Player, and I don't know, guess what I'm buying?
Yeah, you're buying the cheaper one.
I'm buying the Player, because Pro, no, they said to get a standard one. That's a professional. I don't need a professional.
Well, let's ask this question, Jim. So how confusing was it when they had a Mexican standard and an American standard?
Yeah, how difficult was that to decide?
Well, I mean, if you honestly, didn't know, and you just said, I need a standard Strat, and they hand you a Mexican one.
Yeah, at that point, unless you were, an American standard, you're just looking at, well, which one is it?
Yeah. So I get it. I mean, I get why they changed the names. I don't know that I don't know that it. Since it's a break with tradition, I don't know how it affects their sales.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't at all. Maybe they're selling so many Squire Classic vibes now, they just don't even care anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if the Squire Classic vibe has taken over the vast majority of their sales and in that same category that the Mexican used to.
I wouldn't be surprised because at this point, what we have is a lot of YouTube personalities who are what do they call that? A person that's the
influencer.
The influencers. They are the influencers.
Fuckers.
And so they're saying every day, well, you could get a Harley Benton, it's just as good.
Bullshit.
So, well, I'm just saying there's even people you recognize, we've talked about on the show.
It's not that they said just as good. It's the problem that they said good in the same sentence with a Harley Benton.
Yeah, I know. But, I haven't played a Harley Benton. I have no idea.
Neither have I. They might be great.
Yeah.
But I played a Shengzai.
Yeah.
That came from the same country of origin.
We have, as we've talked about on the show before, we have seen a shift in quality control coming out of, the Asian markets.
Yeah. I got a hollow body that's from China that's great.
Now, personally, every classic vibe that I picked up several at the store, played them acoustically. I didn't plug them in. I was okay with it. I didn't hate it. I didn't really like it. I was like, it's all right. It's all right. But I'm not gigging with this thing. I'm not playing this thing every night because the feel of the neck was uncomfortable. I didn't like I don't care which classic vibe it was. It was a Telecaster, Stratocaster, whatever. I just didn't like them. They were okay. They weren't great. They weren't bad. If somebody said to me, would you get a classic vibe? I wouldn't buy one for me. That doesn't mean it's a bad guitar. That's what would be my message.
Do you recall which classic vibe you actually had? Just out of curiosity.
There was a 50s classic vibe, and there was another one that had because the 50s classic vibe had a completely different neck than the one that's the new classic vibe that came out.
Yeah, they've made some changes.
Yeah.
The other thing is, Fender guitars are real finicky for string gauges.
Yep.
And that's a huge part of it. And I honestly, they are the one company that when you go into the guitar store and you pick up their guitars, they will play like absolute dog shit. They don't. I don't know whether they don't set them up when they send them out, or whether when they get them in, they've been wrecked by transport or what. But I will tell you this: I have played more dog shit Fenders in the store because they had not been set up than any other guitar on earth. So
yeah. Now, what do you think of the Jimi Hendrix, the new, or relatively new, Fender Jimi Hendrix Monterey Strat? That's the affordable one. $900.
The Monterey with the paint job?
Yep. It's got
that one I haven't
60s
played.
wacky paint job.
I would buy the Thomas Blug vintage version of that instead.
Yep.
So I can get the Wilkinson pickups right out of the gate. I've played the other one with the inverted headstock, and it didn't do anything for me. And I'm a Hendrix guy, so...
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Well, so my whole thing is, like, when I play a Strat in the store, and I'm going to be completely honest with our listeners, 9 times out of 10, I put it right back on the rack because it's strung with 9s. And it just feels like dog shit to me, because that's not how I play my guitars. That, and the other thing is, 99% of what Fender puts out doesn't have big enough frets for me.
Yeah, that's a tough one because I like big frets. I like jumbo frets.
Yeah, and you're gonna be looking then because that's
and
always
a
problem.
Yeah, standard used to have jumbo frets.
Well, even their jumbo fret is not a Dunlop 6100.
Yeah, I know. It's not as jumbo as it was.
Yeah, no, I mean even on the older American standards, their jumbo was not a 6100. It was something else. So
yeah, I don't know what the measurement was.
Now watch everybody in the group be like, no, it wasn't 6100, and I'm fine. I played plenty of guitars with 6100 frets. They must be putting glue or something on their fretboards because I can feel a difference.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, small frets, for me, small frets don't do. I don't know. I guess some people like them. I honestly don't see the upside of small frets.
Well, the upside is that what the shop you buy it from will then get the guitar back in to refret it when you wear your frets out faster.
Yeah.
I'm smiling and laughing because I'm sure that that's not the design reason behind it.
No.
It's still funny.
It is. All right, so I've got to show you something. So this month's Guitar World, which came in the mail today, there it is, has got it's actually the print is so small, December 2018. Honestly, I don't know if I'm going to keep getting.
Does it have Simply Wonder having a wonderful Christmas time in there? Because if it does, I'm going to go into a deep stupor and probably hang myself.
Well, one of the things you should note is right there, Greta Van Fleet is transcribed.
Greta Van Fleet?
Greta Van Fleet. I've been up since 4:45 a.m. Shut up. Greta Van Fleet is transcribed this month when the curtain falls, if those who are interested. But what I wanted to open to was, okay, so going to being practical. Okay, here's a heavy metal band.
Behemoth.
I didn't even know that people still plugged their albums in Guitar World rag, which is getting thinner all the time, by the way.
Can I say something about this Behemoth ad? So it's got a guy dressed up which clearly looks to be like satirical on papacy and Catholic Church, regalia. He's clearly. So this is Behemoth, right? This is not Ghost. So let's make this very clear.
Yes.
He's borrowing from someone else in terms of his ad, okay?
Yes. And what's killing me, so those who look at these ads, every time I see these ads, I laugh.
Yeah.
Because it's like
hilarious.
This out of shape fat guy who wants to look tough, so they put weird makeup on and moronic clothing, and look at me. I'm tough because
I'm not going to comment on his weight, but
my shirt weighs 42 pounds.
This is let's look very gothic and look like we're the Black Pope, except that the Black Pope already exists as a band member for Ghost.
We'll have to link that. I'll find this and put it in the page or the Facebook page. But check this out, because you can go to metalblade.com. It's obviously Metal Blade Records. If you can read that writing right there, I commend you.
So that's all right. While we're here, because Jim and I, all right, let's we got we're 52 minutes, Jim, but I think we can do this.
Yes.
So a while back, one of our listeners, Dan Kish, sent us some brutal underground metal stuff.
Yep.
And Jim and I subjected ourselves to listening to it for about a week, 2 weeks, and then we let it brew for a while. So now we're going to talk about it, right? So Jim, I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to let you go first.
What about the music?
Yeah, what do you think? Just overall.
Yuck. So my thing is this. I'm a vocalist and I'm in pop music. So you got to understand where I come from. I cannot stand Cookie Monster vocals. I can't stand growling vocals. I can't stand somebody screaming at me. We have a local lawyer. I'm going to go off on a tangent, but there's a reason. We have a local lawyer who has a commercial, and he starts off like this, and I'm going to talk to the insurance company, and I will get you everything that you deserve.
So he's like me.
So by the end of the thing, he's screaming at you, and I'm like, I honestly would never talk to you. I cannot.
It's like having Hitler as a lawyer.
Yeah, as much as I think you might get me the maximum amount of money and scare the pants off of the people on the other side of the place, you're scaring the piss out of me, and I'm sitting here in my living room. You're scaring the piss out of me. So I didn't like it. I didn't like anything of it. I'm I'm also not an amelodic person, so that went past me. I didn't like the vocals. When I can't understand what they're saying, what's the point of having vocals in the first place? I don't know. Nothing about it reached me.
All right.
As you know.
So I've got my iTunes open right here, and I don't know if you can read that or not, but it's Entombed. Okay, so I do have some of their stuff now in it's Wolverine Blues. If you're Ola England, but so I there's some stuff that I really liked out of it. I liked Entombed. I liked. Let's see, what else did he put in there? Entombed was the big one. I think there was some Emperor in there. That was okay. Cannibal Corpse. Some of the early metal stuff he sent us, like late 70s death metal type stuff, like the guitar sounds are just so insanely ridiculous. It sounds like white noise. But I get it because I listen to like Misfits and stuff like that, so I can deal with lack of production. And that's a sound. Misfits, it's a sound too. Well, let me put it to you this way. I think metal is a dish best served greasy and gross. Right. And so when I hear like somebody like Entombed who doesn't necessarily have the best production value, or as I said, like Emperor, some of those bands, they're great. Like hands down, I'm like, I can do this. However, I do have the same stumbling blocks you do, Jim. I can't follow the vocals.
Right.
I'm not a big enough fan to sit down and like read the lyrics and memorize the songs so they can understand what they're doing. I don't have that kind of time. I just don't. But there are bands, specifically Boxy's like Entombed. I can understand what they're saying, and actually, I think the songs he sent us were off one of their early records. And as they get like Wolverine Blues is one of their later ones, I can understand everything he says. And like the other problem is you have a language barrier in a lot of this stuff. Like Entombed is from I believe Sweden. So
there's a lot of Swedish metal,
so there's
death metal band.
A little bit of a language barrier in terms of accent and how they pronounce certain words, and that makes it more difficult.
And what their connotation is.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, and I'm supposed to go to my first like real metal show. I'm going to a death metal show with Dan Kish from the Facebook group. Yeah, I'm going to go see Cannibal Corpse.
Oh God! Well, tell me what you think. Do wear hearing protection.
I will be wearing a lot of hearing protection. I will probably have cotton in my ears along with earplugs because it's going to be awful. But I'm going to enjoy it. I actually like Cannibal Corpse.
I'm sure you will.
I think there are certain genres of or subgenres of metal that I really like. He sent me some Dimmu Borgir. I'd heard them before. I'm not a big symphonic metal guy. Part of me, when I listen to symphonic metal, I'm like, why didn't they just do it with guitars? Like, what the fuck?
I know. Yeah, me too.
But I like the riffs and stuff. I like what they give to the orchestra. But I'm like, why couldn't they done it with guitars?
Yeah. So I don't know what the cost of a full page ad.
Oh my God!
Is
he's still looking at Guitar World while we're doing this podcast, folks?
I have to because this is why I was bringing it up. I don't know what the cost of a full page ad is in Guitar World right now, but I tell you this: Fender, here's 2 pages. Okay, there's 2 just to advertise one.
Oh, they're marketing
guitar,
their ass off right now.
Often imitated, never duplicated. All right,
but except by every other fucking company on earth.
To the new Players Series Jaguar, okay, new pickups, blah blah blah. Often imitated, never duplicated. The new Stratocaster, full 2-page ad. That's 4 pages. Anybody who's been on 60 Cycle Hum sees that this ad is actually a duplication of what they call Kyle Smithing over there. Yes.
You guys have made it. You've made it.
You've made it. You're famous. This guy is Kyle Smithing his guitar, or girl, because you can't really tell because the hands are.
I had Kyle Smith before it was popular.
Kyle
Smith. That's my claim to fame.
All right, check this out. Here's another 2 pages. Now we're at 6 pages. Play something different. The California Series Malibu Player. It's an acoustic. I've never heard anyone say, "Oh, I love my Fender acoustics." So those who love their Fender acoustics, go ahead and chime in. And the other full page ad. Hold on, I'm not even nowhere near done. The effects pedals. Well, another full page ad, all their effects pedals, original design.
So basically
Fender
what you're
tone.
telling me is that Fender owns Guitar World now.
Hold on. Yeah. This month. Okay, here we go again. The GT series, they're still trying to push those freaking shitty
all right,
amps.
Jim, I get the point.
All right. No, wait, we're not done yet.
No!
Wait, there's more. Okay, we're on the last page.
Ukuleles! Ukuleles! This is
ukulele. A full page ad for the new Fender ukuleles, which, by the way, I watched
that
another.
Looks like that belongs in an Abercrombie and Fitch catalog, not in a guitar magazine.
It does. If you look at this ad, it looks like Abercrombie and Fitch. It looks like a Benetton ad.
Well, it looks like Abercrombie and Fitch, except for the underage girls.
I don't know if that's an underage girl or an underage
No.
guy.
I'm saying Abercrombie and Fitch likes to put, preteens in their stuff and dress them up in lingerie.
Okay. Yeah, they do. There's a kind of weird thing.
They're a fucking creepy-ass organization.
But here's the thing. It's the Venice Soprano Surf Green. But here's the thing. So one of the other YouTube channels I watch, what does that come up to? 10 pages?
No, too fucking many is what it is.
It's too many. But anyway, there's where your money's going.
Yep.
Your advertising dollars being spent well, because I don't know how many people Guitar World's reaching these days. But anyway, what I was saying about that is, on another channel I saw there, a lot of the mom and pop stores, the biggest selling item right now is ukuleles. That's their big money maker.
Oh, I know.
So I'm not poo-pooing the ukulele ad. I'm just saying that Fender's jumping in. Those who think that Fender ukuleles are something
that's what I'm saying. Like, a Fender ukulele is fine. I don't care about that. It was just the style of advertising they used, which was like, it was like, is this an Aeropostale or whatever the hell the name of that place is? Now I'm
Aeropostale. Yeah.
That's where I would expect to see this ad. Of
course, Mesa Boogie's in there with their Fillmore. Do they mention the 25 in this ad? No, they could have put the 25 in here. They didn't even bother. The 50 is listed, but not the 25. I was
25 will be in the next month's.
Yeah, but no, the 50 1x12 and the 2x12 cab and blah 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 blah. They do have a cool interview with Andy Summers. Speaking of Strat players and Tele players,
he's a Tele guy.
He's definitely a Fender guy.
He's a Tele guy more than anything.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because, and of course, this old picture of Lenny Kravitz on the back, talking about how he only plays Tortex guitar, picks.
Can you move your thumb? I want to see if his dick's hanging out.
Nope, no wiener. Although that did happen. So one of my Facebook friends was his bass player, his live bass player at that time. That was real. But it's funny because last night after the band, we were taking a break at the end of the night, and everybody was driving home, and there was just a couple of us sitting around talking shit and drinking a beer. We talked about this song right here. Boom, boom, out goes the lights.
Fuck, from Pat Travers.
Pat Travers. And then this shows up today. Pat Travers' Boom, Boom, Out Goes the Lights.
Not my favorite player, but I like some of this stuff.
To get the sound on the cheap for Pat Travers, here's what made me laugh. And I know you're going to laugh through this, but let me read all four pieces of gear. Here you go.
The sound on the cheap.
You can use an Epiphone Vintage G400. Hold on, Dave, because you can't keep going. You got to let me get all the way through because I know you want to go after that.
Oh,
a Marshall DSL 20 CR. I got to keep a straight face. Electro Harmonics Lester K stereo rotary speaker and an ADA PBF flanger. That's how to get the tones of Boom Boom Out Go the Lights on the cheap. Now, anybody who's ever heard Pat Travers and the live version of Boom Boom Out Go the Lights, by the way, that's the live version that they're showing.
That's off of Know Before You Go, right?
It's off of, I think that's, something for what you know.
Oh, Go for What You Know. What did I say? Know Before You Go? That's a document we do at work.
Yeah, Go for what you know.
Yeah.
And if you've ever heard this song.
That's the seminal album from him, so.
Yeah. I know, incredible player. I got to meet him a long time ago. Probably 10, 12 years ago.
He's kind of a rough guy, from what I understand.
Yeah. A friend of mine was his co-guitar player, so I was there as his guitar tech.
Okay.
So I got to hang, and anyway, killer player. And my friend was playing, believe it or not, through an HD 500.
Yeah, I believe it
was a pod. And
was he on Amps and Axes? Because one of Pat Travers's long-term guitar players was on Amps and Axes, and I believe he was using a Pod HD 500.
Yeah, it's a possibility that might have been him.
Yeah.
So, it was a pretty cool show. But anyway, I can't imagine that gear. At first, the Epiphone G400, because I know how much you love that guitar.
I don't. Is he playing slide? Because that's the only thing you could use that thing for.
Oh. If
you I'm kidding, Jim. I know he's not fucking playing slide. Come on.
Oh, yeah. I'm sitting here now remembering the song.
Yeah, you're like, yeah. You know. He was doing a Stevie Wonder and everything. His head was going side to side. It was pretty amazing, folks.
Yeah.
I just Epiphone G400, the DSL 20, okay. I wouldn't say combo.
20 CR.
I mean,
well, they're going on the cheap
speaker. On the cheap, yeah. I mean, how much are they talking here? Because,
the rotary speaker there. So the rotary, which is a pedal, an effects pedal, going through the problem isn't the rotary effect. The problem is, can the rotary effect come through on a Marshall DSL?
Yeah, if you put it in the loop, it'd be fine if you put it in the loop. But I'm
just saying, will it give you a true rotary feel?
No, because you have no fucking stereo.
You have no stereo. That's what I'm saying. I think
I was just going to say that, actually, Jim. That rotary effects are pretty much useless unless you actually have stereo. It'll give you the EQ curve of a rotary thing, and it'll be kind of like a phaser.
Right.
We were talking at the beginning of this episode, and we're getting towards the end. I want to circle back because we were talking about pedals that sound good in the effects loop, right? And I had immediately thought of this one, but I didn't call it out because I didn't want to interrupt you. So, Phase 90, right? Everybody likes the script logo. You put it out in front of the amp, you turn it on, turn the thing all the way down, and you're at Van Halen, right?
Yep.
If you have never had the chance, so they did the block logo for a number of years, right? I'm not sure when those were reissued, but it's not really a reissue, and I'll tell you how it was supposed to be used and why it's different. The block tone or the block logo MXR Phase 90 had a different set of internals because it was designed to match effects loops, and it sounds good in an effects loop, almost like a rotary speaker.
Yep.
Where the Phase 90, like traditional script logo version, sounds better in front of the amp. That's my takeaway. So that's one of those situations where when I was having a conversation with somebody, I think it was a store owner, about that pedal, he said that people don't understand how to use a lot of the modern effects, and like the modulations and delays and reverbs and all these things are not meant to be run in front of the amp. And so you get people running around saying, this pedal sucks. But
because they're putting it in front of the amp.
Because I remember people talking about that block logo Phase 90 and being like, it's a piece of shit. Like, it's terrible. Well, no, not for what it's intended to be used for. It's definitely not a script logo Phase 90 from the 70s.
Right.
And, yeah, so, I mean, I get that argument, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It's definitely usable. So, as Jim thumbs through his magazine here, is there anything else? You saw the FU Tone brass block.
I was just reminding.
Oh, now they also have fucking reviews of Fenders in there too, huh?
Yeah, of course they've got to review the Fenders because Fender paid them a pile of money.
They have to give them all those gold stars too, because
they got to give them this thing, the Retro Reviver, the Fender American Original '60s Jazzmaster.
Yeah, and they got to get a gold star because they bought every fucking ad in the magazine.
Yeah, so you always got to wonder. I mean, when they give them, first of all, this is a $2,000 street price guitar versus the Player Series, which is the one the ad was for. And you really, I mean, they give him a performance award, but I just don't. I don't see any of these guitars being worth $2,000. Just don't see it. Not my. Maybe it's because I'm not. It's not my thing.
I kind of agree with you, Jim. I don't think your typical bolt-on guitar with pop metal bridge, or maybe the bridge plate's fine, but the block is pop metal, and plastic nut, non-locking tuners, that kind of thing, is not worth $2,000.
No.
I see an Ibanez AZ with stainless steel frets, titanium bridge, locking tuners, baked maple neck with some sort of oil, and that kind of thing. I can see that being a $2,000 guitar, and that's bolt-on. And I don't. Bolt-on has nothing to do with it, and that's kind of my point. It has a lot to do with fit, finish, and selection of materials. And Fender has not really necessarily been known for selecting the best of material. So,
right,
$2,000, you're paying for a name. You're paying for those 10 ads in that.
I think you're paying for the temporary popularity of that type of guitar right now.
Yeah, and it goes in cycles. Like, so when Fenders are hot, Gibsons don't sell very well, and then all of a sudden somebody like Slash comes out, and everybody starts buying Gibsons again, and then it's just like every 8 or 9 years, it like flips back and forth. So right now Gibson's in a shitty rut, and because they have so much capital wrapped up in both third-party businesses and their own fucking R&D mistakes, that's why they're where they're at right now. And hopefully the new CEO, whoever that may be, will be able to sort that out. So when they are back on top, they can store all that money away like squirrels, and then hopefully actually leverage it into making the company function when they're in the shitter. So, all
right. So before we close, one last question for you, Mr. Stratocaster.
No.
Yep. All right. So the Fender, the Fender Professional or the Fender Elite? The Elite series or the Professional series? Which one would you go
for me?
If it was you.
For me and the music I make, or if I was playing the music you're going to do.
If you're going to play the style of music that I would be doing, would you buy an Elite?
I don't think I would buy the Elite. I think the Elite's too much money.
So $1,800 or $1,900,
yeah.
Whatever.
And the Elite has a ton of features that like are more contemporary.
Yeah.
So I don't think you necessarily need contemporary.
So you would go with the
Yeah, I would go with the American Professional. The Fender Professional series. Wink wink.
Yeah.
Because
wink wink, nudge nudge, American Standard.
I do want to say this. We try to avoid being political on this podcast as much as possible, but like, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong to label a guitar based on its country of origin, and that's racist or not racist. I'm just saying that there are connotations that get applied to that, which probably are driving some of Fender's marketing decisions in terms of how they do that.
Yeah. I think so too, because the Mexican series got a bad rap for a short time. But honestly, into the 90s, the Mexican series has stood the test of time.
Yeah, people are still buying them. They're buying and selling on the used market. The prices have actually gone up on the used market over the years.
Yeah, the Squire started out in Mexico. So, there's been...
A Squire started out in Japan.
Well, it started in Japan, but I mean the low-end Squire.
I thought that was Korea in the very beginning.
Yeah, they made a because I didn't know this either. I was like, Squire was made in Mexico, really?
They did a short run of Squires in Mexico, like in between, I think.
Yeah,
where they were taking their production out of Japan and
back
moving it to Korea.
Japan.
Yeah,
because the Squires that were made in Japan, let's not compare them to the Squires that are made in Indonesia.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, they still fit the same part of the line, which is the budget and expensive stuff.
Right.
So,
Japanese-made Fenders are awesome.
Yep, they are. I've actually never owned one. I take it back. I've owned Japanese-made Charvel, which was not Fender at the time.
Yeah. All right.
Yep. I have been David.
I have been Jim.